as the luncheon now begins. You know, it's interesting, speaking of tradition, one of Wall Street's most celebrated market strategists was a man named Byron Wayne. He passed away in 2023. He was like 90 years old, but he was known for his 10-yearly predictions, in part because they were always filled with, just sometimes controversial, sometimes contrarian. And he did it for almost 4 decades. So it's in that spirit that a lot of Wall Street firms like to do this, including the Research Investment Committee at Bank of America. They've issued their 10 surprises for 2025. So I looked at the list. I love it. And I want to bring it to the more brilliant guys that I know, market mavens. Bianco Research President Jim Bianco is with us. Tracy's Capital Chief Economist, Daniel Lacalle is with us. Gentlemen, I picked out 6 of them I want to ask you about. And Jim, let me start with you. The S&P 500 north of 20% for the 3rd year in a row. Your thoughts?
I mean, the market's got the momentum. It could definitely happen. But if it did happen, and you look at where valuations are and presumably where valuations would be at the end of the year, it would mean that the prospects for the market after that would start to approach the 2000 peak, the tech peak. You'd have price earnings ratios, you'd have all the other metrics of valuation at such extreme levels that a 20% gain this year might be kind of the last hurrah. And that doesn't mean the economy has to go bad. It means that the economy could do exactly what everybody thinks it's going to do, but you've already priced in, since we're on Inauguration Day, the rest of the Trump presidency within the first year of it.
Daniel?
I think that if you look at our expectations of earnings growth for 2025, a 20% increase is manageable and acceptable. Also, considering that if all of these measures that have been announced will be implemented in the first 100 days, then the strengthening of the U.S. economy might also help valuations. So probably valuations will get better because of earnings growth and margin expansion. So I don't see it that negative. I think that is actually quite feasible.
Daniel, let me stick with you on this one. The number 2, tariffs work and they boost U.S. industrial production.
I think that there is evidence out there that tariffs are a good way of balancing what is already a very imbalanced global trade market. We have to remember that the countries with the largest levels of barriers to trade, China, India, Brazil, Mexico, and Russia, all of them are increasing their trade barriers. So tariffs have proven, number one, that they are not inflationary. The only thing that creates inflation is more money supply growth and more government spending. Right. And number 2, that they may work in terms of improving industrial production by bringing industrial manufacturing investment into the United States.
Jim?
I agree with almost all of that. I would quote, Jamie Dimon, who said, "I've read The Art of the Deal," that tariffs are not only a revenue source, but they're also a gambit to get outcomes from other countries, whether it's trade barriers or agreements. The threat of tariffs can be a very powerful force in getting those. They're not just punishment by, raising the price of everything.
Here's an interesting one for you, Jim. Someone turns off the internet. Recently, we've had these incidents where massive underwater cables, ocean cables have been cut. And that's our communications. As much as we talk about the cloud and space, those are vitally important as well.
Yeah, the internet is a complicated web. I don't see the whole internet being turned off. And if it is, it's probably for hours and it would be very disruptive. But the way that it's structured, and I think the way that we assume it's going to work, some kind of global shutdown that would last for an extended period of time just doesn't seem very likely. But like I said, that doesn't rule out regional ones. Somebody cuts some cables in parts of certain countries could be without the internet, could be highly disruptive.
And I hate to say it, but the regional ones probably will be in Europe. We know a lot of this activity in the North Sea and things like that, Daniel.
Absolutely. One of the reasons why we need to strengthen investment in infrastructure and strengthen investment in telecommunications. But obviously, if I completely agree with Jim that if anything, this will be a regional or and a short-term issue. I wouldn't see it as a global problem lasting for a prolonged period of time.
Jim, one problem that they point out is the grid fragility. We've talked about this. we've talked about it for what feels like 100 years, about how the grid is 100 years old, right? So they're saying, though, that the grid fragility could cause $600 billion worth of power outages.
Oh, I think that one could be very well a bigger concern than the internet, because not only do we have the grid fragility, it's old, it's subject to, various stress points. But now that we've got AI and we've got the internet coming, we're more dependent on electricity than we were 50 years ago. 50 years ago, people thought electricity was just something to power light bulbs. Now it's something to power our way of life. And to lose the grid, or to lose the grid for even short periods of time, is as catastrophic as losing the internet itself.
Yeah. Daniel?
I think that the problem is that for the past almost decade, governments have focused only on investments in energy that are overground, in renewables, solar panels, wind turbines. However, very little has been done in terms of grid strengthening, and that is something that is a huge problem in the European Union and certainly in the United States, and needs to attract more investment very, very quickly. So I think that I don't see it as a risk of something that is going to create a significant disruption for a long period of time. But it's obviously showing again that there has to be an energy policy driven to guarantee security of supply.
There's also the vulnerability from cyber attacks and things like that. Let me ask you, Jim, you mentioned AI. They're saying that AI models could run out of human-created training data. I was reading the other day how Encyclopedia Britannica has gotten a second life, right? Everyone kind of wrote them off because all these AI models, they're seeking any information anywhere they can to digest and consume. Could they be running out that quickly?
No, I don't think they're going to run out that quickly. These, as you mentioned, Byron Wien, who I've had the good fortune to know before he passed away, he's been doing this for 40 years. And I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, that one of the, 10 lists included, that the end of brick and mortar retailing. Well, in 99 and 2000, that didn't happen. 2025, maybe it hasn't happened, but it's a lot more plausible. So this idea that we're going to run out of human ingenuity, human creativity, human knowledge to put up on AI, maybe in 20 years, that could be a problem, but I don't see that being a 2025 or 2026 issue.
Well, that's good news. That means the robots will keep us around longer. Daniel.
Never bet against human ingenuity. We have heard this over and over again for decades. And what has proven to be a reality is that human ingenuity surprises us on the upside. So I would certainly not see it as a danger at all.
All right. Hey, Jim, Daniel, thank you both so much. I love this segment. Talk to you both again real soon. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
All right, see you later. All right, now my next